Hey everyone, this is Philip Sufukwe. Um, just coming to you with a simple video. Simple. Uh, just let's just get to the chase. Basically, what the title is going to be: why every Christian should vote for President Donald Trump. Um, what this boils down to, and what it all boils down to, especially in our day and age, is not necessarily what people think needs to be the choice that people need to make. Let's say how people need to make the choice. For non-Christians, you guys can make your own choices. You can do whatever you want, and you know, be fine with it. But for Christians, especially, there is a way, there is a method that we need to employ in order to actually successfully vote the way that God wants us to vote. Not the way that we want to vote, not the way that people are telling us to vote, not the way that our emotions are telling us to vote ultimately. It's how does God say that I need to steward this opportunity to shape where I live, right? When the Israelites were taken into captivity by the Babylonians, we all know the Babylonians were the big bads of back then. Um, what God really told them is He told them, you guys are going to be taken into captivity. He told them over and over and again through the prophets. But He said, when you go there, don't decrease, increase. Actually thrive wherever you are, right? Basically be a benefit to the society that's there. And so that's how we as Christians need to approach voting. We need to vote in a way that increases the area that we are living in, not decrease it. We are also to vote in a way that aligns with God's principles and God's agenda for this world, on many facets, right? One of the things I think that's dividing all of us is everyone is seeing good things on either side of the political spectrum, but they're using those, several things to actually outweigh the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? What are you really voting for? And I think that's the question everyone needs to ask. What are you really voting for? And so I think the way we need to approach this is not necessarily by personality, which is what the media and everyone wants us to believe. We need to vote this from principle, from policy. And ultimately, as a Christian, you actually have to think in that arena. What platform of either party, and it has to be either party, because as principles as you want to use your vote to go to a third party because you don't believe that either candidate is ideal for the situation, one of them is going to win, and we all know that, right? It's been a long time. I believe once a third party candidate won, but because of how everyone is so polarized, that's how you have to step into it and say, okay, with wisdom, how am I moving? And so I believe that the Republican Party has actually been, and especially the president, has actually done more to steward the Christian faith than the Democratic Party, right? The two issues that a family member actually mentioned of why Christians are so enamored with the Republican Party, that he in his estimation said were what really kept the Christians on that side of the political aisle, was the abortion issue and the same-sex marriage issue. And for the longest, I didn't know how to answer him because it was so baffling to me, because as a Christian, it made sense. Abortion is something that we need to take serious. The same-sex marriage is something that we need to take serious because that's what God decrees we need to take serious, right? We need to make sure that we preserve all life. Doesn't matter how it came into this world. God says that we are to take care of everyone, and especially those who do not have a voice, those who are oppressed, those who are fatherless, those who are widowed, the foreigner, all of that. We're supposed to take care of all of them, right? We're supposed to do everything and we need to do. And the church specifically, not any political party, but the church specifically is the one who's supposed to take charge and take care of these people groups. And with same-sex marriage, it's basically pointing out that, and let me even call it for what it is. It's not just same-sex marriage. It's, gender identity, gender fluidity. Um, what is it? Just basically just abolishing the status that God has set, the precedence that God has set when it comes to marriage, and relationships in general with the opposite sex and then also the same sex. God has set boundaries, right? A man and a woman are the only ones who are able to sexually fulfill themselves in a marriage. So that includes adultery being wrong, same-sex marriage, anything that is not in that category of a man and a woman in the covenant of marriage. That is the only permissible exercise of sex that God has given to us, has gifted to us. Because again, He could have not done it. As my pastor, I go to 11:22. He always says, like, sex is God's gift, and He could have made us reproduce in any form, right? There are many animals that just reproduce, asexually. They don't need another partner. They just drop off whatever limb, and then that becomes the baby. And God could have done that, and He decided, no, this is how I want to do it. And so, what we ultimately have to realize is there's purpose. And so, when you vote, that's what you're voting for. You're voting for God's purpose in this world, and I say world because America is pretty influential around the world. As much as people don't want that, America is pretty influential. What happens here matters everywhere. And so, as a Christian, that's what you're thinking. You're thinking about the preservation of the family unit, the way God intended it. You're thinking about the preservation of life. You're thinking about the preservation of Israel specifically, because God says, if you bless, I'll bless those who bless you, I'll curse those who curse you, because God considers and sees the Israelites as the apple of His eye, and also we need to take care of them because that's where Jesus came from, right? Without the Israelites and without, let's say, Abraham saying yes to God so many years ago, this would not be the people group that the Messiah would come through, right? And so, there's just a lot of things that we as Christians need to consider. And specifically, I'll just answer the question with President Trump. You're looking at his policies. You're looking, what has he done in the past 4 years in many different aspects? Whether it be financially, economically, in relations with race relations and whatnot. How has he affected people, and has the media been really representing him the way that he should be represented, right? And I don't think that's actually true. Like, there's a lot of the media has, again, and if you pay attention, they're attacking his personality more than they're attacking his policies. And the reason why is because they can't dispute his policies, right? It's not like his policies are what they say racist as they're favoring a specific people group. It's like, no, they're as flat as possible. And if you decide personally, I want to take part in this economic growth, then you will succeed. If you do it correctly, you will succeed. And so, if we, again, remove our biases, remove our emotions from it, and we ask God, which candidate is really, really aligning with you more? It may not be perfect, because the only person that's perfect is Jesus. And His rule, and I heard a pastor say this, if you're looking for a person who has great policies and is perfect, that's Jesus, right? I mean, that's only in the millennium rule later on. That's what he said. I was like, that's so true. So right now you have two choices. Again, you may think you have a third choice, but it's not really. You have to ask God, who am I supposed to pick in this election? Who is going to champion your agenda, right? Not anyone's personal agenda. Who's going to champion your agenda? And who is going to eliminate as much evil from this world as possible, right? Whether that be human trafficking, whether that be foreign aid to suffering peoples, what else? Whether that be economic, right? Whether that be race relations, right? And you have to ask, like, who's really dividing this nation, right? Because I've always wondered that. I live in the South, right? This is where apparently all the racists are. And I can get, let's say, things can get like, with people I don't know. It's just harder to interact with them because I'm potentially not like them. Um, but at the same time, I'm not receiving this blatant racism where like people are truly denying me service or truly denying me the freedom to exist here. And I'm not saying like it doesn't happen in many people, but the way that people are spinning it, you gotta pause and think, is this my reality? Or is this reality that I see on TV? And we know that reality TV is not true, right? So, it's just something to think about. Uh, Again, having grown up here in the South, not in those eras where it was bad, but in the modern age, where things are calm and people just honestly just want to get on with their lives, and they don't want so much of this disruption and this divisiveness that is potentially, sorry, not potential, apparently um, being found, according to the media, everywhere, and I don't think that's the case. So hopefully you guys took something away from this. And it's only like what, a few days before the election day itself and the decision, and I pray honestly that we just get it over with, and we move on with making our country just amazing, making our country a place where people can thrive. Everyone who wants to thrive will thrive, and those who intentionally do not want to thrive will not, right? I pray honestly that they have no choice but to thrive because they just exist. Like it's just around them that wherever they find, wherever they are, it's just there's no choice. Like it's like it's like if you walk in the rainstorm, you will get wet, right? It's not necessarily like just because you don't want to get wet doesn't mean that you won't get wet. It's a weird analogy, but you get the point. Yeah, I pray you guys have a great morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time that you guys are watching this. And yeah, I just pray God's blessing over you guys. Bye.